Hello, hello, ladies. Happy Thursday. I hope you're doing well. I am jumping on today to talk about mindset. And I usually jump on Friday mornings, but I might be switching things around and starting to do it now on Thursday afternoons to accommodate more people that can join me live. And I'm just quickly jumping onto my phone to make sure that I'm live in the right group, and I am, so that's great. And today we are talking about how to feel happy and confident and successful. And I said like when the scale isn't budged, but really it's when you are not, it's how to feel confident, successful, and happy, regardless of where you're at and regardless of what your goals is. I think that's sort of the point of what I want to be talking about today. And this all stems from a book that I read this weekend called The Gap and the Gain. And it's an amazing book. And I think that every single woman in this group should be reading it. And what I'm going to do in today's chat is just kind of give you the framework that they deliver in this book. And I'm going to show you a visual because they have a little diagram and show you how it relates to what the women in this group are trying to achieve, whether you're trying to achieve, weight loss, or maybe you're trying to gain weight, or maybe you're trying to gain muscle, or maybe you're trying to boost your energy, or maybe you're trying to improve your health. Or maybe you're just trying to make it through perimenopause or menopause, and you've got all these signs and symptoms and they feel horrible and you feel unhappy right now. And I think that this framework can help so many women. And so I'm really excited to share it. Now, I will start by saying, obviously, I did not come up with this framework, and I will do my best to explain it. But ultimately, I do think that everyone should be getting the book. And I saw Diane said that she's already ordered it. Yay, Diane. I can't wait to see what you think of it. But let's dive in. I've got a couple of notes here of what I want to chit chat about. And then I'm going to pull up the diagram, and we'll kind of go from there. So the book starts off by talking about Thomas Jefferson and the Declaration of Independence, and how, in that there's the pursuit of happiness is sort of part of it. And talks a lot about how, that has become part of culture, of North American culture. And obviously the Declaration of Independence is American, but I feel like that culture is also very Canadian, in the sense that we are constantly pursuing happiness, and that in our culture, happiness is something that we have not yet achieved, and we're trying to achieve it. And so this whole book is basically saying that if you're constantly trying to achieve happiness, you've missed the point. You are already happy. Happiness isn't outside of you. It's not something that you can achieve. It's something that's inside of you. And I know that sounds super woo-woo, and I am not a very woo-woo person. And so when I read this book, it just made sense to me the same way that science makes sense to me. I'm much more of a science-oriented person, and but when I read this book, it kind of really, really made sense. And part of what they're talking about in the introduction of introducing this is that we as a society constantly push our ideals. And so we have something that we have an ideal that we want to reach, but when we reach it, we set a new ideal. And then when we reach it, we set a new ideal. And maybe you guys can relate to this in how you live your life. But the guy gives an example in the beginning of someone he was working with who had $2.5 million saved in his bank. Like, can you even imagine? Like, that would be amazing. But he's explaining how at 2.5 million, this person felt insecure in his finances because his ideal was 5 million. So he worked towards having 5 million in saved up or in investments. And when he got to 5 million, he still felt insecure and felt that in order to be really secure and happy, he needed 10 million. So he kept constantly pushing his ideal further and further and further. And what the sort of like the theory, or not the theory, but the concept in this book is that he is living in the gap, and that we can live in either the gap or we can live in the gain. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you and show you this diagram of what the gap is and what the gain is. And then I'll give you a couple of the nuggets from the book to give you a sense of what it talks about and how this concept can be applied to everything in your life, including the goals that you're trying to achieve inside this group. So let me just quickly share my screen with you. Hopefully I can find it, because, you know, sometimes I can't. That's not what I want. Advanced, no. Files. Oh gosh, of course, I can never find them when I want them. Let's see if I go there and then I move over to where I actually want to be. That is not what I want to be sharing. Let's just delete. Okay, just a second, guys. Okay, just a second. Am I sharing right now? No, I'm not. Give me 1 second, ladies. I'm always technically challenged. I have to close like every single window that's open before I can make this happen, which I thought I had done, but apparently I did not. So let me just try and make this happen. Okay. If I can't, I'll just describe it to you. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Okay, perfect. Yay. Okay. So this diagram shows this concept of the gap and the gain. And I'm going to put it in I'm going to talk about weight loss, but again, you know, it doesn't only apply to weight loss, but it's a great way of kind of just like, you know, putting it into perspective for this group. So basically, you basically, the way that he explains it is, once again, you can live either in the gap or you can live in the gain. And it all boils down to how you are measuring progress and to how you are measuring success. And so over here is the gap and over here is the gain. So what he says is he'll draw a line, right? So then there's the start point, and then there's achieved, and then there's ideal. So if we think of this again in terms of weight loss, so the start point might be where you're at when you first jump on a diet. Okay, you start a program, you start a diet, you hire a coach or a personal trainer. That's your start point. And then let's say that was like 30 days ago or 90 days ago or a year ago. The achieved is where you are right now today. And the ideal is your goal. And what this whole book explains is that most of us continually live in the gap, which means that we are judging our success and our progress based on the gap between what we have achieved and where we're going, our ideal. And this is where we're measuring success. And until we reach that ideal, we have not achieved success. Okay. So as you can see, if you're in this, if you live in the gap and you're constantly sort of living or constantly thinking about the gap, obviously, between where you are right now and where you want to go, some of the feelings that are likely to come up are going to be failure, frustration, disappointment, low self-esteem, guilt, depression, and really unhappiness, right? And then over here is the gain. So the diagram is exactly the same, but it's how you are measuring success that is completely different. When you learn how to be in the gain, you are measuring your progress and your success backwards. You're looking at where you have come from the start point. And in this, if you learn how to do this, then likely you will experience success, satisfaction, confidence, high self-esteem, enjoyment, and optimism, which is completely different. And I'm just going back to my notes here. So basically the whole idea, the whole concept here is that there are two ways that you can measure yourself. You can measure yourself against an ideal, which puts you in the gap, or you can measure yourself against your starting point, which immediately puts you in the game. And it kind of is like gratitude in a sense, but to me, this just makes more sense. And it's super simple and it's super clear. And it's just an easy way of identifying where you're at from a mindset perspective, of simply saying, of asking yourself right now, and you can tell me in the comments, are you living in the gap or are you living in the gain? And I realized when I read this book, I spent a lot of time in the gap, right? I spent a lot of time in the gap. And because again, and I'm gonna dive into this a little bit more, you know, when it comes to my goals, I'm constantly pushing them. I'm constantly pushing them further and further. And so when I reach something, I'm like, oh, well, now I want this. Oh, well, now I want this. Oh, well, now I want this. And in the book, they refer to this as hedonic adaptation, or being on the hedonic treadmill. And it's this concept that we quickly adapt to what we have, right? Even though it's new, like let's say you lose 20 pounds or 30 or 40, or you know, you get a brand new promotion or you buy a new house, we quickly adapt and we want more, bigger, better, faster, whatever it is. And this is this concept of hedonic adaptation. And again, it's this pursuit of happiness where this ideal is constantly getting pushed. Okay. And what they explain in this book is that if you're a high achiever, right, if you're like a perfectionist, which I know a lot of the women in this groups are high achievers, then what happens is that you are even more prone to living in the gap of having this ideal that you're constantly chasing, but that you're also constantly pushing further and further away. And so when you're there, when you're always pushing the next achievement, nothing is ever good enough and you will never be happy. Does this resonate? Do you guys definitely in the gap? Yeah. Diane says in the gap. Christine says in the gap. I think most of us live in the gap. And like when I read this, my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, that's me. I do this myself. And you can apply it to everything. And the author is really great at using different scenarios of saying, for example, with his kids, you know, he has 2 kids and he breaks a cookie in half and gives each of them half of it. And one of the kids says, my cookie isn't as big as his cookie. And he's like, you're living in the gap. You're looking, your ideal, which is the bigger, you're focusing on your ideal, which is the bigger half of the cookie. And you're not even taking a second to appreciate the gain, which is the cookie in your hand that you're about to eat. And it just, I don't know, it just really blew my mind. It's such a simple framework, but can you guys see how if you start thinking in terms of being in the gap or being in the game when it comes to the goals that you want to achieve inside this group, how potentially this can completely change how you measure your progress, your success, your self-esteem, your confidence, your happiness with where you are at right now. Would love to hear again in the comments if this is resonating with you, whether you're joining me live or catching the replay. And so basically this gap is a toxic mindset, and it stops people from being happy and from appreciating their life, their now, their current state. And happiness is only ever something that is in the future, that is ideal, and that cannot be in the present. And that you will never feel successful if you're living in the gap, because you're tying happiness to something in the future. And what we need to do is stop attaching happiness to what we have yet achieved and start to attach happiness to what we have already achieved. Okay. So the whole book from there is divided into 2 different sections. One is how to get out of the gap, and one is how to get into the game. And so, because right now you might be listening to this and being like, yeah, this all makes sense and it's wonderful, but how on earth do you do that? And this is why I recommend this book, because obviously this is just a quick sort of summary of the book, but inside the book, there are specific exercises to help you recognize when you're in the gap and to help you start making that shift towards being in the game. And I'll give you a couple of examples just today. So one is that you need to stop measuring yourself against your ideal. And you need to start connecting to yourself and to your own progress. Okay, so that is what you need to be measuring yourself against. Like, your ideal doesn't exist, or maybe it does exist, but it doesn't exist in your life. The only thing that exists in your life is your present and where you started. And so instead of measuring yourself against this ideal that doesn't actually exist in your life, measure yourself, measure your progress, measure your success with what actually exists in your life. And again, this is this concept of measuring backwards. And they give different exercises inside of the book as to how you can do that. And you can do that on a daily basis. You can do it on a weekly basis. You can do it on a monthly basis. You can do it on a yearly basis. But the concept is that when you're, when you, every sort of 1 week or 90 days or every year, instead of setting goals and looking at progress as, okay, this is the next step, you take time to look backwards and look at everything that you have achieved. And so that you can start to really redefine success and see how far you've come. One of the very, like, I think, amazing little tools or exercises is to finish off your day with 3 gains. 3 gains at the end of every day, or 3 wins. And, it always surprises me inside my program when I'll be like, I ask my clients once a week, like, okay, well, what's work? What small wins can you share with me? I always say, what wins can you share with me this week? And sometimes my clients are like, I don't know. Like, and it's because potentially they are, focused too much on, again, this ideal. And they're not able to appreciate all of the small gains that they make every single day. Every single good choice, every single good meal is a gain. Every workout is a gain. Every new piece of knowledge is a gain. And so getting into that habit of noticing and naming our gains at the end of every single day. And part of what they explain in the book is that when you're in the gap, it kind of spirals you into the gap. When you go into the gain, it spirals you into the gain. So you just have to start making a conscientious effort of recognizing the gain. And then you'll just start to move towards being in that mindset, in that framework. Another really amazing chapter in the book, there's a whole chapter dedicated to this, is recognizing the difference between wanting something and needing something. And the example that they give is of this football player who's, he's I don't know, can't remember who he is. I don't follow football, but anyways, like an amazing football player. And he goes on social media, and I can't remember the exact story, but says, I don't need football. And then he proceeds to get bashed by social media for saying that. And he's like, whoa, you don't understand. Like, you misread. It's not that I don't love football. I love football. I'm passionate about it. I've dedicated my life to it, but I don't need it. I want it, and I want it in my life, but I don't need it to be happy. I don't need it to be successful. I don't need it to have self-worth. And again, this is like, it's a big mindset shift of just recognizing what you want versus what you need. And for some of you, maybe your goals, especially if you're in here because you have some health issues, then maybe need is more accurate. But for most of us, it is want. And the whole concept, again, of being in the gap or in the gain is recognizing the difference between the two and giving yourself the power to want something without needing it, so that, again, you can still be happy even though you want something, because you take away that power that you need it. And so what they write is that the gap is based on an unhealthy need or an attachment to something that's outside of yourself that you think you need, that leads to unhappiness. You're operating from a position of lack and from a position of need. And you're avoiding the here, the now, the present. You're trying to get there to this ideal, and you're never arriving. Whereas if you're in the gain, you're in harmony with what you want, but you don't need it to be happy, which, again, I think is such a huge thing when it comes to some of the things that women are trying to achieve inside this group. We've already talked about measuring backwards, but I'll just quote from the book, they say the way to measure your progress is backward against where you started, not against your ideal. And if you guys just go away with that, I think that's massive. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, there's 6 chapters in the book, but this is really what I wanted to give you in this, is just a sense of the general framework that is utilized inside the book. I highly recommend it. It's a short read. There's a ton of exercises to help you make this mindset shift. I can tell you, like, I read it over the weekend, and I'm constantly in my mind now, because it's such a simple framework. I'll ask myself, are you in the gap? Are you in the game? And I force myself at the end of the day to try, oh, that's another big thing in the book, to try and recognize the game, because one of the whole chapters in the book is learning to turn every single experience of your life, even the worst possible ones, into a game. And he's like, you lose a family member, turn it into a game. You get a divorce, turn it into a game. You find out you've got cancer, turn it into a game. And again, just having this massive mindset shift. And so that's what I'm working on, and it's what I'm getting a lot of my clients to work on. And so I thought that I would share that with you guys today, and I'll post a link to the book so that you can find it. And if you do decide to buy it, let me know. I would really love to hear your thoughts and see what you think, and put it in the chat as well. Like right now, if you can see how this mindset would be beneficial to you, I would love to hear from you. And that was it today. I wanted to keep it short and sweet because, as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, I'm in full swing of getting everyone set up for the Summer Transformation Challenge. And so my days have been quite busy. And so I haven't had much time to prepare much, and I've had just all kinds of stuff popping up. Let's see what Jill says. I definitely look back at my weight last year and see the success I have made. So not constantly in the gap. That's awesome, Jill. That's super awesome. Cherie, I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's so true about the constant ideals. I've done that all my life. I think so many of us do, right? We always just want something better. So anyways, I do love to talk about mindset. I think mindset is really important when it comes to reaching our goals, because mindset is really what determines if we stay on track, or if we decide to quit momentarily, because that's what happens to so many women. So hopefully that was helpful. And I'll be back on next week. I don't know what the topic is going to be right now, because again, I've been really busy with just getting the Summer Transformation Challenge going. If you're like, what are you talking about, Haley? I am doing a transformation challenge. It starts on April the 16th. It is for 6 months. So this is to be part of my coaching program with a group of women. I think it's going to be a really fun group. I've been talking with a ton of women about it. And this is the first time I'm actually offering my personal coaching program as a group coach with a group group coaching option. So if you are interested in learning more, I will also put that link below so you can go check it out. And other than that, have a fantastic day. I hope you have a good end to your week. When you go to bed tonight, think about the gains. Think about three gains that you achieved today, and let me know what you think of the book. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all soon. Bye.